Excellent. All right, so we are live. Thank you. For anyone that shows up, we're going to get started in just a moment here. Just a moment. So thanks for stopping by. Thanks for showing up. I'm going to go ahead and hopefully share this here video real quickly on Facebook. For those of the people that are going to be coming over from Facebook, we're going to go ahead and share this over there. But yeah, thanks for showing up, you guys. I appreciate you. We're going to be doing some readings today. If you're here on this broadcast, we are going to be doing some multi-dimensional tarot and energy body readings for those of you guys that are interested. So come in and hang out. Hello, Faye B. How's it going? Good to see you. So this is the first time that I have ever done a broadcast like this on YouTube. And so if you're one of the people that might be familiar with this channel or the work that I do, or this sort of strange realm that we're in, and just some of the energetic stuff that's going on right now, this is the first time we're going to be doing this here on YouTube. So thank you for showing up. And so, yeah, just a moment here. I'm going to burn this Palo Santo. We like to clear the space. Every time I do one of these, I like to take a moment to just kind of center, to clear the space, and to get everything kind of lined up for what we're going to be doing today. And so come on in, say hello. How's it going? And so if you've stopped by, we are the School of Multidimensional Intuition. And so for those of you guys that have followed this channel, I guess over the past year or so, you may have noticed that all of a sudden all these videos started popping up, and all these strange multi-dimensional, ramblings about entities and attachments and implantations. And so thank you, Joanne Wood. Good to see you. So for those of you guys that are following this channel over the past couple of years, you've noticed that over the past year, we've had just a really big upsurge in the videos, in the content, in the activity, in the energy, and just the overall events that are going on in this world. And so we're here today to talk a little bit about it. But really, what we're really about here today is talking about, what is this channel? What am I doing? Who am I? What is this strange school of multi-dimensional intuition? What is this stuff about? And so my name is Matthew Aaron Mornian, and I'm a multi-dimensional energy healer, intuitive reader. In the old days, we would call it psychic, or a spiritual healer, those sort of things. But let's be very specific, because I believe this is an ability that every single one of us has right now. And so what I mean when I say multi-dimensional intuitive energy healer is I work very specifically with the non-physical anatomy, with the non-physical sources, currents, and frequencies of energy that exist in our world, in our bodies, the energy of our chakras, of the meridians, the invisible kind of spiritual energy that everyone at this stage, I think, if you're one of the few people that jumps on this broadcast and you're like, whoa, what the hell are we doing here? At this stage of your journey on Earth, I think it is no longer debatable whether we live in a realm which is right alongside, something like what we might call the spiritual realm or an astral realm. And so what's happening right now is we're in the midst of a dimensional shift. We're moving from third into fourth density. And for those of you guys that have seen our videos, you'll know that I currently believe that we are existing in what we might call the lower octaves of fourth density. And so I'm going to go ahead and define fourth density, because I know we just have a few people here, and some of you guys are probably like, what the hell is this man even talking about? What is this fourth density thing? And so from the most basic perspective, I think we could describe fourth density right now as the next evolutionary stage of human consciousness. And so to be even more specific about that, what I mean when I say the next evolutionary stage of human consciousness, I mean the level to which our bodies or our minds, our human consciousness, the version of you that you guys identify inside you, what we're discovering is that the stage of our incarnational cycle, the human consciousness is beginning to move outside of the bounds of this physical shell that we're all in. And so, you know, to be very specific, what does that mean? Well, many of us have been experiencing enhanced intuitive abilities. Many of us are beginning to travel in our dreams. We're beginning to go to, you know, distant places. And, you know, for some of us, it'll be so vivid. We'll wonder, was that actually real? For some of us, you know, we might even start thinking we're crazy, because it's like we start hearing the voices of maybe, you know, people that aren't there, or maybe loved ones that have passed on, or at certain times in our life. I will be talking about energy parasites. I absolutely will. Thank you. But what we're talking about right now is the phenomenon of fourth density. And so what that means, to kind of sum it up, is that people are becoming more intuitive. They're becoming more psychic. As a society, as like a community, we are becoming very, very intuitive. And so what does that actually mean? That is the mechanism of opening up that multi-dimensional template inside you. And so you know, my work in that kind of began as somewhat of a crash course, I would say, in like 2015. For some of you guys that have seen this channel in the past and have watched, you know, maybe some of the old interviews that I've done, it's been very, very few. And so if you've made it here today, you are part of a very small select group of individuals that have been made aware of this information. So good job. Somebody literally guided you here. But for me, this journey kind of began around 2015, in which I had what I now understand to be a very, very rapid and almost explosive crown chakra opening. And so what do I mean when I say crown chakra opening, you guys? For those of you guys that are here and you're wondering, because I just saw a question in the chat, energetic parasites, how to clear them and how they're attached. Well, here's one clue. We have a very important piece of energetic anatomy right at the top of the head that's known as the crown chakra. It's a bit of a gateway to higher consciousness. For some people, it's also a bit of a pressure point. It can be a very vulnerable point for some of us. But, you know, in kind of going back to the history of this experience in this channel, for me in 2015, I had a very rapid crown chakra opening. At that time in my life, I was working as a mental health worker in addiction medicine at a veterans treatment center in Southern California. I won't say where. And I was at this homeless event, this sort of homeless, you know, outreach thing. And I was walking by this tent, you guys, and like this lady was like, "So would you like an energy blessing?" You know, and I was like, yeah, I guess I don't want to go back to work. I'll sit down. And I sat down in this chair. This was in, I believe, July of 2015. I just sat down in this chair, and a woman put her hands on my head. And, you know, it was about 60 seconds of my life. And I actually did feel a sensation at that stage. I have to admit, I felt like I was wearing a hat for weeks after that. But more importantly, what happened after that moment is that within 30 days of that contact, the energetic transmission, the opening of the crown chakra, which I now understand it to be, I experienced a very, very rapid and very difficult awakening process. And so for those of you guys that are here, if you're even watching this channel, you're probably aware on some level of that awakening process, what that is, how that works, coming to a greater awareness of, you know, who we are as a being. And for some of us, it's a very traumatic process. And so, you know, for me, that process began in earnest in 2015, in a period in which I literally thought I was losing my mind. And so I know there have been a number of people that have contacted me through this channel over the past year, and through some of the, you know, the videos that we have put out about, you know, parasitic implantation and whatnot, and have gone through a very, very similar process. But for me in the beginning, it was as if I was literally losing my mind, to the extent in which I would walk down the street and see an animal, and for some reason it was like the animal would talk to me, and there was some form of an exchange of consciousness that kind of took place. You know, likewise, you know, during this sort of rehab that I was working at the time, it was kind of like this transitional living center for, you know, people that were in like a recovery program down there. At the time, I would have these experiences during this crazy awakening where I would just even walk past a person in a hallway, and it was as if I would get this strange physical essence. It was like this feelings of like their emotions, their thoughts, pictures, strange stuff. And at that time in my life, it was completely new to me. I think that for most of my life, I understood that I was very empathic. And, you know, like a lot of us that come into this, you know, body as an empath, you know, for those of you guys that are even somewhat like familiar with this work, you are probably an empath or developing some form of an ability in your own right. But for me, it kind of exploded out in 2015. And, you know, that, you know, the whole half of that year, the whole second half of that year was really just me getting an idea of like, whoa, what's going on in my life? What's going on in my body? And it really kickstarted this process and the energetic practice that I'm doing today. And so, you know, fast forward to 2016, and don't worry, I'm not going to spend all day on this, you guys, don't worry. But, you know, fast forward to 2016, and a very, very strange thing happened in my life. Which I think is very important for the people that will ultimately eventually see this channel. And that I believe I was one of those individuals in which, you know, we might call an adult onset extraterrestrial experiencer, because I would say around October of 2016, as I was kind of like continuing along with this exploration. Sorry, I have a little bit of a stutter. Sort of kind of like this process that I was in the midst of. I was doing a meditation one day. I believe this was October of 2016. And right as I reached the crown chakra portion of that process, it was a breathwork process that we actually kind of teach in some of the work that we're doing here in the classes and the courses that I've been putting on. Right as I reached that crown chakra structure at the top of the head during the meditation I was in, it was as if I was taken out of my body and I was face to face with what in hindsight now was probably about a 12-foot or tall praying mantis, an extraterrestrial being, a gigantic praying mantis. And so for a lot of people, they will hear just that phrase, just that, you know, just that experience, and the weird little switch will click in their head and some sort of an internal filter will kick on. And, you know, and I think that's a really good thing to acknowledge, because for me in that moment, it was as if all of those things were gone, and it was as if I was taken outside of my body into some sort of a eternal place in which I was face to face with some sort of a being. And even still within that space, as I was face to face with, you know, what was essentially what I believe to be an ET, my human mind began to question. You know, I began to sort of wonder, what am I doing here? And in that moment, that praying mantis turned into a boy, what appeared to be a human boy, probably, I would venture to say maybe like 17 or 18 years old, very, very dark skinned, almost Indian looking. And he had kind of like wrappings around his arms. And it was as if he was just beaming, smiling at me with this almost the most incredible love I've ever felt. I feel emotional even like talking about it right now, which is very interesting. But the experience that I took from that, which was probably, you guys, ultimately like maybe 3 seconds, 5 seconds in the physical realm of my life. But the overriding emotion from that experience was that they were proud of me. It was like somebody was happy to see me, which was a really interesting and unexpected vibe. It was almost as if they were like, yes. And just like that, it was gone. And so that was about October 2016 for me. And those are some of the experiences that really kickstarted this self-learning process by which I began to just be made aware of the non-physical structures of my body. And so fast forward a few years down the road, and I began to become in contact with individuals, people that I think, you know, will show up in the life cycle of every person when they continue to work toward their mission. And you guys who are watching here, you will know who they are in your own life, because they will somehow be very familiar upon meeting. It's as if you will build some sort of an alliance, or there will be an exchange, an ancient familiarity, familiarity, thank you. And so you know, in my case, a number of teachers, interesting individuals, activators, people that I had somehow made strange contracts with to show up in my life and sort of create a change begin to show up. And fast forward down the road to July of 2017. Don't worry, we're almost to 2020. There ain't much more after that. But I made a very interesting life change. And I think it's important to mention this for those of you who will, you know, eventually see this content and will be going through a similar process. But throughout the next 2 years after those initial experiences in 2015 and 16, I went through such a tremendous change in my life. My body changed, my face changed, my weight changed. Every single thing about me seemed to transform and turn into something else over this period. And right around July of 2017, I made a very crazy choice for a lot of people, really crazy. I decided to leave my marriage. I left my job. I literally left the house that I owned. I put all of my stuff actually on the curb. I put a bunch of stuff on the curb and I drove away. And that was in 2017, and that was kind of like that was literally the start of this crazy process that we're in. And so that was right around the time I began to build the content. I began to take the things that I was learning from other people and my friends and the people that had been sent in to guide me, and I began to build this sort of strange kind of energetic practice that we are doing now. And so fast forward all the way, let's just jump forward to 2020, because I know there's some people here that probably want to get readings today. I'm going to bring it up into the here and now. Thank you. What's going on, you guys? Angela, thank you. Cassandra, how's it going? Good to see you. Somebody made it over from Facebook. You never know. Life-changing grace. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's good to see you. Hello, you guys. So fast forward to about 2020, and here we are, following some major timeline shifts. If you're one of the people that walked in the door into this strange broadcast, think back to the version of yourself that you were. Let's just say 2017, and I'm going to look for some comments in there. I want somebody to prove me wrong. Hello, Isabella. And that's probably a very foolish thing to say, but look back in your own life, you guys, and ask yourself, are you the same person that you were even 6 months ago? Look back to 2017. Some of you guys will have pictures on your phone, and you're going to be bold, and you're going to open up your phone, and you're going to scroll all the way back, and you're going to find some picture of yourself from a couple years ago. And if you can do that, and if you're one of those people here and you're able to kind of look back on yourself, it is undeniable that we are not the same versions of us that we were then. And so why is that, you guys? Why is that? And this ties in very heavily. Very good. Yeah, no, totally. That is a real thing. It is a different lifetime. Radiant Seed Pod, 100%. And so that's where we're going with this. And so the reason why, the overarching mission, what are we doing? Why are we here? Is because many of us made a choice. For some of us, it was prior to coming into this body. For some of us, it was along the way. For some of us, it was, what we might call 10,000 years ago, whatever. But we made a choice that right around 2017, we could even say maybe in the summer of 2017 or somewhere along the journey in 2017, many of us experienced a great change, a great shift. Something happened in our life. For some of us, it was an illness. For some of us, it was an accident. For some of us, it was a great upset. For some of us, it could have been a number of things. And I'm not talking like a life-changing experience, but on some level, it is my opinion that if you're one of the people that jumped on this strange broadcast, it's because you were guided to be here. And why is that? Because my guess is, or the best guess at this stage, is that you're part of this multidimensional soul group who chose to change timelines, who chose to go through a process of awakening, of transformation, to ultimately be faced with this choice. And so what is the choice that I'm talking about? 2018 is perfect. That's within, that is a real deal. It didn't have to be 2017, although there was a large group of us that went through at that time. That said, what is that choice that I was just talking about? What is that? And thank you. Life-changing grace. Major stuff was happening right around that time. Astrid, thank you, left a 9-year-long relationship, and so that number 9 is also very important, which we're going to get to when we get into the world of tarot in a little bit. But before that, because you guys who know me, you guys will know I'm going to go on a weird long tangent. Right, but here's what happened in 2017. A large group of individuals agreed to go through a timeline shift. And so what was that? If you're here on this channel, it's no longer a woo-woo topic. It's no longer too weird to go there. What did we agree to do? We agreed to change timelines. For some of us, we agreed to shift into an entirely new physical body. And that's why many of us experience great physical shifts, beginning for some of us what we might call the forerunners of this soul group in 2012, and then trickling on down. I was in the 2015 and 2017 group timeline, but what happened and what was that choice that we're talking about? The choice is something that they reference in texts like the Law of One and other, spiritual texts, but it is essentially the ascension process by which the human consciousness goes through a shift in density, a shift in frequency. It's a little bit like, if you guys want to get technical and weird and also a bit basic, it's a bit like shifting a radio station. A frequency shift. We go from one station to the next. And so many of us made a choice in 2017, before, after, to make this physical shift into a thing we now know as fourth density. And so this is where we are right now. And so I'll say it once again. I don't know. I actually enjoy saying this. If you made it this far, and if you're here, and if you're one of those individuals that somehow stumbled upon this strange live stream on YouTube today, you are amongst that group. You made a choice at some stage of your life to shift into a different wavelength. And so now we are here. We are here in that physical realm. And what we're discovering in the lower octaves of fourth density is that humans tend to become much more intuitive. We tend to become much more sensitive to energy. We begin to feel other people's energy, other people's intentions. We begin to move outside the bounds of the human body into an entirely astral realm. And at the beginning of that process, for many of us, it is incredibly bewildering. It's incredibly difficult. For myself, I literally thought I was losing my mind for about 2.5 years. And, I'm very, very grateful that I continued to push through, because what I understood during that period, and I'm going to kind of dial it back, you guys, we're going to go into one of those like flashback scenes, like on a television show where they kind of like do like a cut in, so we're going to go ahead and cut in to, I believe this is this was April of 2017. And it was at a stage in this awakening process, you guys, where I was so out of my mind. The only thing I could do, and some of you guys have heard me talk about this before, so you're going to roll your eyes, but there was a stage during this process for me, and I would say early 2017, in which I was just really, really ungrounded. I was a little bit unfocused. I had no idea where I was going or what I was doing. And at that stage, it was as if there was so much energy moving through my body that all I could do was stand in my backyard and do Qigong. I would go to work, I would come home, I would stand in the backyard and do Qigong. I would sit down in my backyard and meditate. And it was the only thing I could do. And it caused a lot of chaos in my life, for one thing. But secondly, there came this point in which I was going through these processes, and what I ultimately understood to be, actually, Danny, that's a really good question. At that stage of my life, I was absolutely sober. In fact, I had just gone off of every single thing. So that is a very, very good point. Thank you. Which makes it all the more weird, right? When you're literally losing your mind to that extent that you're like, whoa, I don't even need drugs. But that said, I would say right around April of 2017, I was standing in my backyard doing Qigong, and I looked up in the sky and I could see this almost like a face of a lion in the clouds. And, right there in that moment, you're already going, whoa, what the hell's going on? And I went through this, what I understood to be somewhat of it was like a contact experience in which I was taken through this process through a telepathic interfacing with what I believe to be a group of extraterrestrials, and what is ultimately, and this is why this is important for you guys to understand, because for a lot of us, what we understand to be a singular higher self as one being, one version of you, is actually kind of like a group of consciousnesses that you have been or existed as throughout the multidimensional fabric of time. And so in my case, I made contact with what I believe to be, and what was shown to me to be, a multi-dimensional soul group council, a higher self council. And I had a very interesting conversation in my backyard, standing there in March of 2017. And what they told me was, Matthew, you have a mission. It is time to remember. And at that stage of my life, I really didn't have any idea what it was or what that meant. But I sat there and I got down on my hands and knees and I said, yes, I choose it. And I was having one of those like adult meltdowns, you guys, where you're literally crying in your backyard, and I was sitting there in my backyard going, yes, I'll do it. And then my wife at the time walks out the door and she's like, okay, so what are we going to have for dinner? And I'm like, and I'm like in that moment going through this crazy experience, and bam, We're back in the 3D realm. And so a lot of stuff changed for me after that. At that stage of my life, I didn't really have anyone to talk about, you know, with these things. And if you go trying to tell people, even on Facebook or social media, at that stage, even just 3 years ago, there was an interesting stigma. There was still an interesting vibe around those type of experiences. So when I began to launch and really practice on a full-time level this mission and this thing that we're doing, a lot of things changed. And so here we are in 2020 when we are the School of Multidimensional Intuition. And so what are we doing here today? I just did a bit of a really long ramble about, you know, the history and how I got here. But what we are doing today is we're working on clearing our chakras. We're working on clearing the meridian structures in the body, and ultimately allowing the human body to really adjust and settle and heal and activate these fourth density frequencies in the body. And so if you have questions about how that works, if you have questions about chakras, if you're one of the people that's here from the YouTube realm and you're like, you know, I've seen a few of these videos and I'm wondering about certain things. We had a question in the very beginning about, you know, implantation, attachment, where those things attach on into the body. And so if you have a question about that, please throw that in there. We are going to do some readings in just a few minutes here. And so, yeah, if you guys have any questions about that, please do throw them in there. But for those that asked in the beginning, and I'm going to go ahead and roll up and look at your comments. What's going on? Artina Guyland, how's it going? It's good to see you. Deborah Sutherland says, yes, I went deep into awakening studies. I definitely feel you, man. The last few years have been life-changing for nearly everyone. I truly, truly believe that. Thank you. Thank you. So a lot of changes. They call us crazy, even though my grown kids try to put me in the hospital. I feel you. Sometimes that'll happen. I honor your experience. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for listening, you guys. This is, you know, for those of you guys that are going to eventually pop into this channel and watch some of these videos and go, who is this strange man that's doing these videos and why is he doing it? Just a little bit of my personal history. So now that that rant is over, why are we here today, you guys? First off, just a couple announcements. For those of you guys that follow, you know, my work, I want to let you know I'm going to be doing a free online group energy healing, and this is going to be on Saturday, April 4th. Okay, you guys, and so I've already created a Facebook event about this. I hope that the people here that kind of bridge the Facebook, YouTube realm can go over there and share that. But this is a free group healing. This is a free group healing process in which we're going to be working specifically with the consciousness of this current pandemic. I'm hesitant to say the name because I don't want to pop up on any like YouTube algorithms, but everyone here knows what it is. It's why there's no toilet paper in the store. And for those of you guys that watched my Facebook Live a few days ago, I was like, there's all the, you know, nothing's changed here in, you know, LA, everything's the same. I actually went to the store today and there was literally, it was being ransacked by crazy people. You could actually feel, you could literally feel the frequency of fear. Like as we got out to the car, it was like I had to, poof, you know, literally clean it off. And so the reason why I'm mentioning all that stuff is because there is an incredibly heavy frequency of interference, of fear, of hypervigilance. It is a literal frequency that many people are working with right now. And so what we are going to be doing is on Saturday, April 4th, we're going to be doing a free online group healing meditation. I'm actually going to be doing it on YouTube and then sharing it on Facebook. And so what we're going to be doing is going through about an hour-long process in which we're going to be working specifically with some structures in the body, areas that can help us create clarity, areas that can help us with our emotional discernment, areas that can help us with our mental discernment, areas in the energy body that can help with creating barriers, keyword, barriers or shielding against predatory or toxic energy. And for those of you guys that are here, I'll just kind of jump ahead. I'm going to fast forward way ahead, and I'll tell you what those areas are. For those of you guys that won't be able to make it, through my work and the, you know, the things that I do each day, I believe we have very accurately, or at least on a certain level, accurately identified many of the holding places for certain types of mental programs, emotions, thought processes that go through the human body. And so what are we going to be doing on April 4th is we're going to be working with number one. For those of you guys that have been in my recent courses and seen the recent video, you're going to know number one, the vagus nerve. And so why are we going to be clearing our vagus nerve on April 4th in an attempt to create immunity, sovereignty, clarity, an intuitive gut instinct in the body? Why are we going to be doing that? Because the vagus nerve, you guys, this is the information pathway, the 10th pair of cranial nerves linking the gut and literally all of your organs, sending signals back up into the brain. It is that mass of tissue, that interesting pathway through which we literally connect with our intuitive ability. And so in times like this, in which we're being faced with all this miasmatic energy, all of this fear frequency, the literal mind-like control waves that are coming from our TVs, we're going to be working on clearing that structure in the body and creating resiliency, creating an improved sense of recovery and sovereignty in the body. And so we're going to be working with that vagus nerve, and we're also going to be working with the lung energy. But most importantly, you guys, and if you're wondering, you know, what is the keys toward creating true immunity against any form of disease or dysfunction in the body? In my opinion, it is probably one of the most forgotten and overlooked systems in the body, and that is your lymphatic system. So on April 4th, Saturday, April 4th, I believe it's at 1 p.m. 1 p.m. on the West Coast here in the United States. We are going to be doing a group energy clearing, working with our vagus nerve, our lungs, the lymphatic system, working on breaking through old structures of fear programming in the body, but also we're going to be working on creating immunity, enhancing our body's ability to bounce back, to maintain its energy. And most importantly, and here's a key for those of you guys that are learning how to do energy work, if you're doing self-healing, if you're doing just work on yourself and you're wondering, how do I assist or create an additional layer of shielding or an energetic barrier around my body? Keyword, you guys, pericardium meridian. Some of you guys are going to literally click off and go Google that. If you want, go for it. That's the guardian of your heart. And it's a very, very important energetic structure for those of you guys that want to do self-work and create literally an impenetrable energetic layer around the body. And so it's a very, very interesting thing. So we're going to be working with a number of those structures on Saturday, April 4th, entirely free group clearing. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I think there's so much fear frequency around this. I've noticed a lot of group stuff in which people are really, it's like they want to bring in a frequency of healing, but at the same time they're buying into this fear and hypervigilance frequency. And to be really technically honest with those of you guys that are here, it looks like we have 26 people in the moment. I believe that's a little bit of a timeline choice, in which if we consistently align with some frequency of fear or trepidation or even avoidance about a certain thing, it's almost like we're choosing and self-manifesting to a certain extent along that timeline by buying into the frequency. And so one of the things we're going to be helping everybody do on Saturday, April 4th is choose their timeline. I mean, for some of you guys that are here, you're going to be like, what? I don't even know what that means. How are we going to choose our timeline? Which is a very, very good question. It is much simpler than I think a lot of us as humans actually think it is, yet at the same time, it is not necessarily an easy process, because by my understanding, the process of shifting timelines, which is essentially, you know, altering or changing our vibratory frequency into a different experiential, I guess we could say, realm, you know, it is definitely a process. It really requires real focus. And having been in a person that I believe experienced a timeline shift, I think it is right now something that we are doing as a group, as like a collective of individuals. When we choose to align our thoughts and our consciousness with an idea or a thing or an outcome. We could even say when we choose to align our consciousness, you know, with the idea that we are responsible or a part of a certain thing going on in society, that as well is creating a bit of a choice. It's making a choice to join in, you know, with what I believe to be ultimately a timeline. And so we're doing this as a group. We're really shifting, you know, the collective vibration away from one of fear and vigilance and toward one of, you know, empowered clarity and discernment. I almost couldn't say that word for a second, so thank you. So if you guys check that out, I'm going to add a link to it. Right now, it is a Facebook event, but that's going to be Saturday, April 4th at 1 p.m. On the West Coast. So yeah, check it out. Thanks, you guys. And that is free, by the way. So thank you. Angel Baby Mama, how's it going? I agree, but can't see a way out since the rest of the population is going bananas. You know what? They are. As a person who I'm probably a lot older than I look, you guys. I'm 42. As a person that has lived through many of these population experiment pandemic kind of episodes, you know, SARS and Zika and avian and, you know, all of that, even all the way back to Ebola and even all the way back to what I think was a hantavirus outbreak and something like 1996, you know. As a person that has watched every single one of these outbreaks over the passage of time and the level to which they've been monitored and sort of, you know, like cataloged by the powers that were, I believe it's very interesting to notice that this is the first time in which we've seen such a, you know, such a craziness. For those of you guys that are aware, I was going to be doing a presentation at the New Living Expo on April 4th, actually, which is the same day we're doing this healing, hint, hint. And that's because, unfortunately, that event had been canceled. It's been postponed to October. So, yeah, if you haven't heard it elsewhere, yeah, New Living Expo has been postponed, I believe, until sometime in October. And so, through, you know, an unfortunate turn of events, that paved the way for us to be able to do this group healing. And so, yeah, I hope some of you guys will be there. The whole ecosystem is something that has to feed on something else to survive. I hear you. I feel like there's a whole astral wildlife, just like we see in nature. We have to have clean strategies to deal with infections. Or I don't know, maybe actually you didn't write deal, but thank you, Angela22. I absolutely agree. And so what we're going to be doing is we're working with, you know, that non-physical infectious energy. And so when we even talk about something like infections or the concept of that, you know, some of you guys that have noticed in, you know, like the video stuff that I've put out on this channel is that we've talked a bit about AI, artificial intelligence, what some people call the AI sentience. And additionally, those sort of pesky things, some people call them archons, some people call them parasites, some people in the old days call them demons, all that stuff. But what are we actually talking about is, I believe, essentially non-physical energy, non-physical consciousness outside of the third density realm, and usually what I believe to be lower astral, which is always kind of a big, that's a big catch-all term, lower fourth density astral beings. And so, you know, right now, along with the dimensional shift in which we are becoming more psychic and more intuitive and more in tune with the non-physical energies in our world, part of the experience in fourth density is, you know, we will also begin to come in closer contact with that polarity, those service to self, those service to others energies out there. And right now, many people, it's just one of the hallmarks of the experience here in third density. We will at some stage of our life cycle deal with energetic parasites, with, you know, entity attachments, with things like succubus or incubus. In some cases, we are dealing with, you know, real true extraterrestrial implants or, you know, MyLab scenarios. And so all of those experiences are completely valid. But what we find is that the human body begins to really process those things differently as we move into fourth density. And so for a lot of us right now, you guys, it's like the energy, like the first 10 layers of your energy body have been ripped off. And a lot of us are, you know, walking around completely unshielded, very empathic beings. And so, you know, like we said earlier, if you're interested in, you know, improving your body's energetic barriers and creating a shield or sovereignty, work with your pericardium, but also work with the solar plexus chakra. For those of you guys that have followed my work, you've noticed I've been a lot more meridian focused. I think that's just kind of where my head is at the moment. But likewise, when we're looking for developing or really leaning into toward healing our energetic, like we could say momentum, the frequency within you that's pushing you forward. For a lot of us right now, that energy is really dormant or activating or in some state of flux, whether it's on or off within the solar plexus chakra. And so the interesting thing is usually when just by mentioning it, people that are watching, you guys will get a sensation down in your belly. So if you get that, let me know. Sometimes it's going to be right underneath your rib cage. You get this little feeling in there. That's your gut instinct. It's a very interesting thing. And so just as a group right now, you guys, you really need to start listening to that gut instinct. But that said, what are we going to be doing here today, guys? We are going to be doing some readings. So if you would like a card pulled, we're going to be doing some multi-dimensional tarot readings. If this is one of your first times watching me, and if you're on YouTube, it might be, but probably the bulk of my work, in addition to energy clearings, is we do a lot of tarot reading. We look at our timeline. And so what do I mean when we look at our timeline, you guys? What we're looking at is, like I just talked about a few moments ago, that energetic momentum. Because a lot of people online in this world right now are doing readings. They're looking at, elements of people's energy. And you'll find a lot of people out there that'll say, guess what? In the next year or two, X, Y, and Z is going to happen. You're going to meet somebody. You're going to have 2 kids. Those people that will sort of, give you those very concrete elements of experiential data that you are apparently lining up to experience. In my opinion, for the work that I do, you guys, I don't believe that's actually how time and our 4th density realm works. I believe that we have like a control, somewhat of a leeway, this ability to shift and create these timelines, these outcomes in our experience. And so what that means is, number one, we live in a realm of infinite timelines. Anything can happen. But 2, we have the ability based within us, by harnessing our personal power and really, really working with our energetic focus, working with our energy centers to really, really direct where it is we're going, or at the very least, you guys understand I'm pointing in this, I'm pointing in this direction. I'm going toward this experience. And so the way I tend to do that is through the use of tarot. And so I practice a modality called multidimensional tarot. And for those of you guys that are interested, I'm going to say it now. I'm going to be doing a class on this on April 26th. So if you click down in the description, you'll see our website, Remember Your Mission. You can join that class. We're going to be teaching people to read multidimensional tarot. But what is multidimensional tarot very specifically? It is the art of looking at an additional layer of human consciousness within the framework of tarot, within the framework of the archetypes, within the framework of the suits, and the energy that is therein. We also have many indicators, many identifiers, many pieces of non-physical energy that talk about our energy centers, our chakras, the meridians, organs in the body. Entire processes and chapters of the human life are oftentimes, revealed through the process of looking at the human body at just an additional layer, an additional kind of frequency. And so when we use multi-dimensional tarot, we're looking at an additional layer. And so it often manifests a bit differently in each and every reading, but it's an incredibly fascinating process. And so we're gonna demonstrate a little bit of that here today. But in the meantime, yeah, please do, if you guys are here, kind of click that link in the description of this video if you can. Go over to rememberyourmission.com. We have a couple other classes. And the reason why I'm going to plug these here today is because, click that link in the description of this video if you can. Go over to rememberyourmission.com. We have a couple other classes. And the reason why I'm going to plug these here today is because, this is what the whole group are doing. And so on March 21st and 22nd, this is the equinox weekend that I think is coming up in 2 weeks right now. I'm going to be doing a very special workshop in which we're dealing specifically with negative energetic manifestations in the body, implantation, attachment. We're going to be talking about how it actually works through my experience, what I've learned, what I've experienced, the experience of my clients with things like demons, things like parasites, things like AI implantation, extraterrestrial contact, my lab experiences, what we've learned and what we've picked up on. And each day we're going to be doing an energy clearing. If there's one thing that I think makes the classes that I do different from others, is that it's not just about disseminating information. It's about giving you guys tools by which you can use and clear and heal and, actually start doing the work on your own. So really the whole mission is to, hopefully help everybody move into 4th density with greater awareness, greater sovereignty, learn how to heal the mind, body, spirit complex. Some of you guys who know me can tell I'm just rambling at this point, but yeah, thanks for hanging out. We're going to do some readings. How's it going? Thank you. Life-changing grace. Listen to your soul. That's cool. I love that. Thank you. Angel Baby Mama would love a reading. How's it going? We're just going to pull a couple cards. And so how does this work, you guys? I'm just going to do 1 or 2 cards and talk about what shows up. Take it all with a grain of salt. If you've had readings before, some of you guys in here do readings in your own right. And so I want you guys to take everything with a grain of salt. when we do these things, it's kind of like we're just opening up a door and we're just sticking our head in there and we're just looking at what shows up, what's important. So for Angel Baby Mama, what does she need to be made aware of today? Those of you working with Angel Baby Mama, thank you, thank you, thank you. Angel Baby Mama, interestingly enough, your first card here today, and I am hoping that my camera will focus, you guys, because I had to change webcams recently, and this guy has a hard time focusing on cards. But anyway, Angel Baby Mama, what did you receive today? You got a thing known as the Queen of Pentacles, okay? And so what is a Queen of Pentacles? Well, just in looking at your name, I want to let you know there's a weird, even if it's just a screen name, and even if you're not, you know, a mother, it's very interesting that you got the Queen of Pentacles, because the Queen of Pentacles as an archetype is oftentimes indicative of mother energy, kind of like a benefactor, a very abundant and benevolent female energy as an individual. She can at times, and so maybe there's a little bit of you in this, maybe they're not. I'm going to describe the energy of the Queen of Pentacles, Angel Baby Mama, and man, it sucks that my camera won't focus. I should have used the onboard camera on my computer. I apologize, you guys, but with the Queen of Pentacles, if she comes up against blockage or difficulty in her life, if she becomes stuck or it becomes difficult for her to move forward, it's oftentimes because she's dealing with some form of stagnation, whether it be physical stagnation, energetic stagnation, just as a theme. And I'm not saying this is you, Angel Baby Mama, take it with a grain of salt, but people with a lot of Pentacles energy, at times, and I'm not saying you have a lot of Pentacles energy because we're just doing a one-card reading and we're describing the essence of it, they can become over-reliant upon older methods. They can become stagnated in some way. And so there's this really interesting trick. This is a very interesting thing that you can do. And I have a feeling if you're feeling stagnated or stuck, or if certain things are not moving forward in your life, rearrange your bedroom. Rearrange your bedroom or the place that you live. And so you know, that could have mixed, you know, like results for your Angel Baby Mama, because we, you know, we're just looking at one card worth of energy in the moment. But for people that come up against blockage or stagnancy and have a lot of Pentacles energy, for many of us, we can create a physical shift or an inspirational burst of energy in our life by altering the energetic flow of our physical environment. So I hope that makes sense to you. Thanks for hanging out. Take it with a grain of salt. I did pull another card for you, which is the Chariot, which I think is a very beautiful thing, you guys. Whether it's classical tarot or multi-dimensional tarot, the Chariot is a universal capability. It's an incredibly powerful forward-moving energy. If you're questioning, am I able to? It doesn't matter what the outcome is, Angel Baby Mama. If it's something that you're trying to do, something that you've been trying to work on, or if it's a place you're trying to get to, or something that you're trying to accomplish from a generalistic perspective, the Chariot. And I know it's kind of blurry. I like to rely on the symbolism of these cards. When we look at something like the Chariot, Angel Baby Mama, you might notice, if it's not too blurry, that the guy driving the Chariot, he's not even driving. He's playing a harp. And so there's a weird piece of symbolism in the Chariot, because for a lot of people, they will look at that card and they'll be like, yes, victory, you can do it. This is a positive thing. But when we look closer, we see that there's an additional layer of symbolism. And so the Chariot is the universal indicator of a possibility for success, but we have to take direct control over a certain thing, over where we're going, or an area of our life. And what's weird with the Chariot, and this is kind of universal to classical tarot decks that will oftentimes show the Chariot, you know, with horses in front of it. Pretty much every single one of those, if they're well done, you're going to notice one thing. And I'm going to hold up the card again, Angel Baby Mama, because maybe you can see it. And you guys, I'm putting my face behind it so we can get it to focus. And it doesn't always work. But Angel Baby Mama, the horses aren't facing in the same direction. One of them's going that way, one of them's going that way. And so what that asks us to do is check who's in alignment with us. Check our partnerships, check who's driving the car, which way we're going, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, I just rambled at you for a while. Thank you for hanging out. You need to take control over something. So, but yeah, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you. So who else do we have? And we're going to move kind of quick, you guys. So I'm just going to grab whoever's here. We might not get them in order. I do apologize if I skip you. We're just going to grab whose next question shows up. And I believe we got Angeline Sunrise. I don't even know if you're here. We might, we're just going to keep going. We're going to roll through. So for Miss Angeline Sunrise, wherever you are, we're just going to go ahead and pull a card. What does she need to be made aware of today? What's important for Miss Angeline Sunrise? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, Angeline Sunrise, you have a very interesting thing today. You have the Eight of Pentacles. Very, very interesting card. And so with the Eight of Pentacles, you guys, we could be in a process of constantly repeating things. But here's the thing, Angeline Sunrise, even if you don't know anything about tarot, and I apologize for the blurriness of this webcam here today, but even if you don't know anything about tarot, hopefully you can still see that there's this kid and he's chipping away at something. Angeline's just kind of working at it. He's working on this project, and you look up, behind him, and he's already made 8 of them, and so he's been creating something. Or maybe you've been creating something, you've been working on something, you've been chipping away at it. You might have been going through a process over the last few years, repeating something over and over and over again. It's not a negative thing with the Eight of Pentacles because it's something real. But what happens with the Eight of Pentacles is we get caught up in a little bit of a kind of a loop in which we will continue to manifest or create the same thing over and over again. It's not a bad place to be, but it just asks you to take into account any loops that you're repeating and the level to which you're willing to take what you're doing now and take it outside, bring it elsewhere, take it to the next level. Usually when I have a better camera here, we can see this. Yeah, that kind of works. You can see this card, and you notice there's a whole world going on behind this kid. And so it's time for you to take control. Take what you're creating and bring it outside where you are now. Bring it outside your realm. Sometimes it's into a new physical location. And I know that's a very generalistic piece of information. And here's the thing. Even if you're questioning, you guys, let's say you're pulling cards on yourself and you're wondering, like, you keep getting these pentacles, which you guys, they look like giant coins in tarot. They're called pentacles. A lot of you guys will already know that, so like if you do, like, forgive me, but the pentacles in multidimensional tarot are the currency of your desire, and they're what you are manifesting. They're what you're creating. It's like they're what we desire and they're what we're creating. So it's very important for us to be in alignment with what we are manifesting. And so kind of an interesting, weird, existential kind of, bucket load of information there for you. Thank you. I believe that was Angel. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for hanging out, you guys. Okay, so I saw someone ask down there, JKL, I just joined. How do we get a card pulled? Just like that. And so don't get mad, you guys. We're just going to jump on whoever's here. We're going to go ahead for Mr. JKL. Thanks for stopping by. I don't even know if you're still here. We're going to pull a card for you real quick, and then we're just going to move on. This is going to be a real quick one. So I do this on Facebook a lot, and I sometimes people get weird when you skip around in the line, and I'm one of those people that kind of gets weird, but I don't know. We're here on YouTube, and so we're changing the rules. And for Mr. JKL, very interestingly enough, you have kind of a complex thing today. It's almost more of a question than an answer. JKL, you've received the Three of Pentacles, and I apologize for the blurriness. I'm keeping it right next to my face. Maybe it'll focus. But the Three of Pentacles, you guys, I'm just going to describe it because the blurry, the images are blurry. The Three of Pentacles, you guys, shows up at a time in your life in which you've been chipping away at a certain thing. You might have been working at something and you're not really seeing results. One of the ways we could describe it is when actually things take a turn for the positive. And let's say you've been going to the gym for a while and you walk, like you wake up one day and, you've been going to the gym and like you're standing in the mirror and you're like, all of a sudden you notice something has changed. Or maybe, you've been, just like exercising and you stand in the mirror and you look and you notice, like your belly's going down or something shifting. Okay. And so that's a really good example from a metaphorical level of the energy of the Three of Pentacles. Okay. The Three of Pentacles shows up at a time in your life in which the things you've been chipping away at, number one, it's time for you to expect a result. But number two, with the Three of Pentacles, we're just in the stage of threes. So the second thing we look at with the Three of Pentacles is that we're just starting something. And so usually when I have a better camera, JKL, we can see this image a little clearer. But when you look at this man here, he's chipping away at something and he's starting to see gold. Those pentacles are showing up. It tells you to keep hammering away at a certain thing in your life. You're making progress. And then oftentimes in the very near future, with something like the Three of Pentacles or just a 3 in general, it's important for us to continue to express ourselves along that individual journey, especially if we want to continue to see results. So there's a very interesting multi-layered kind of thing going on there, JKL. Hopefully you will see that. Oh yeah, and you were trying to heal childhood trauma, borderline depression. I'm going to throw a random piece of information out there for JKL and anyone else that's currently dealing with childhood trauma. We can even be more specific and say very, very deeply dominating childhood trauma, whether it be sexual trauma, physical, abuses, any of those things. There are certain areas on the physical body in which that tends to lay. And for a lot of us right now, as we're going into fourth density, much of that energy is going to be down in your psoas muscle. It's spelled PSOAS. That's your psoas muscle. And down in the psoas muscle, JKL and other people who are watching, that's what we might call the emotional core. It's also one of the, I think it's almost the largest muscle in the body, but that's your body's physical storage point for a lot, not all, but for many of us, a vast amount of the very, very pressurized, deep traumas in your body. And so we'll come to these stages oftentimes as adults, right around when we turn 30, later on, when we, every 10 years or so, a lot of us will have kind of an upsurgence of old wounds or cycles in our life. And it's like all those old wounds start coming up back to the surface. And so that's good. You know about the psoas. So then you should know that by working with and opening up that muscular structure in your body, whether it be through whether it be through trauma, a release, through yoga, through, just simply stretching and opening up the pelvic floor. For a lot of us right now, just as a soul group, that's a tremendously pressurized place. And so along with your psoas, you also have that vagus nerve, which oftentimes when it comes to situations of implanted trauma in the body will be affecting our adrenal glands and the kidney meridian in the body. That's another place that you can look at or Google. Also the heart chakra, the pericardium, which we talked about, a while back. And so thank you for mentioning that. I've stopped crying for weeks. That is very, very important. And so I'm going to also, along with that, you just identified probably one of the most active areas of your energy body right now. And so for a lot of us, when we have this incredible outpouring of tears or crying or grief in the body, number one, that's interacting with our lungs. And so why is that interacting with the lungs? The lungs is a storehouse of grief. We find individuals that will come to years without crying. They haven't cried for years. They just don't know how. It's like they can't. And suddenly, you'll go to a Chinese, like a Chinese medicine, I can't say the word, here we go, practitioner, boom, there we go. Or you'll go to some other sort of like an acupuncturist and they'll start to work with the lung meridian. Hint for JKL for what might be going on with you if you're having a lot of outpouring of grief, and the lungs open up and we begin to outpour emotion. It's like this tap opens up and we just, and there's other areas of the body in which that'll happen as well. But when we have trapped grief in your body, look at the lungs and the meridian for the lungs, you guys, it starts kind of right here in your chest and it goes down your arms and connects with your thumb. And so, yeah, I'm confused though, because I'm told that somatic experiencing is the only way. On a certain level, I think there is a lot of what we might call somatic or, the physical symptomology of that experience or that trapped energy in the body. That is part of the experience. Does it mean that you will be asked to experience each and everything at the same time? No. That experience will be different for each of us. I would say, if that's an appropriate frequency of healing for you, just stay open to it and you will find that on some level something will show up in your experiential field, probably in the very near future, just by making yourself open to it. So yeah, anyway, thank you for hanging out. That is a real thing. You are among a large group of individuals that's going through an upsurgence of those old deep wounds. So yeah, thank you for hanging out. Thank you for being real. We're going to scroll way up because I skipped a bunch of people. I'm going to grab somebody that wants a reading. And so thank you for hanging out. Christina Rock, how's it going? I don't know if you're still here. We're going to do a reading for Christina Rock. Christina Rock. For those of you guys that are still here looking for readings, just go ahead and just say it again. It's okay. I'm not going to get mad at you for like repeating it. I skipped a bunch of people. So I apologize. Go ahead and say that you'd like a card. All you got to do is say just card, please. And hopefully we will get to you guys. We're going to speed it up here. So thank you. Christina Rock, if you're still here, here we go. Even if you're not here, we're going to do a reading for you anyway. Christina Rock, thank you. For Miss Christina Rock, you've got a thing called the Knight of Cups, which is an interesting part of our emotional journey. Hopefully this will show up for everybody here. But what is a Knight of Cups, you guys? Let's just define it. A Knight of Cups for Christina Rock. Through the lens of multidimensional tarot, the Knight of Cups is an aspect of your emotional journey. It's part of your passageway through this awakening and transformation, and this what is ultimately a self-realization process as a human being. The Knight of Cups is the emotional part of that journey in which you inevitably come to a stage in which you may only be skimming the surface of certain things in your world, certain experiences. Oftentimes, if you're in a cycle of healing or activation, if you're in somewhat of a transformative stage, the Knight of Cups asks us to begin to work with the emotional body, the emotional templates in your body, the emotional wounds, and especially the things that are a little bit difficult for you to dive into. For some of us, it's family issues. For some of us, it's relationship issues. Another card came out for you, Christina Rock, and that's the Ten of Swords. In that moment, the Ten of Swords showed up, and hopefully, I know it's blurry, you guys. We got a wonky webcam. It's weird, but anyway, it doesn't like to focus on cards. But that Ten of Swords, you guys, that's an end of an era. Christina Rock, the Ten of Swords will show up at a stage in your life in which it could just be the end of the week, or it could be the end of an era. But when the Ten of Swords shows up, and I know it's blurry, but we have, it's kind of a gruesome image. You got this guy stabbed with all these swords. Is you're coming to an end of something that's been really beating you down or weighing you down, an area of your life in which you've been feeling defeated or unable to go on. The Ten of Swords will show up at a stage in which you can let that stuff go. It's time for us to call it quits on a certain thing. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. It doesn't have to be, it's really up to you. And I want you to take that with a grain of salt. Especially, when people on YouTube are just pulling cards, if it feels relevant to you and if your body resonates with it, search for something in your world that it may be time for you to actively call it quits on, with pride and an understanding that, I can let this go. This is cool. We're done with that. Because the Ten of Swords will bring you to a stage in which you've been weighed down by something so much that it's okay to let it go. And so if you have anything like that in your world, release it. And work with that emotional body. If you're wondering about a structure, a piece of energetic anatomy, you guys, and you pull something like that Knight of Cups, that's oftentimes the heart. But it can also be, and this is where we get weird in multidimensional tarot, because when we look at the relationships with emotional frequencies in the body, the Knight of Cups, who might be barely skimming the surface of certain areas of his life, is also very involved with our emotional body, matters of the heart. And what we're able to really work with. And so there's a bunch of interesting kind of symbolic stuff. And anyway, for those of you guys that know me, you can tell I'm just rambling here. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you. Okay, we are gonna grab somebody else. Oh, I just saw a quick question. Thank you for this question, Cordian S. What about reversed cards? I love that, because we inevitably come into many different sort of, modalities, frequencies, practices in tarot. And for me, when I begin practicing tarot or really working in this full time, I actually don't use reversals. And when I began, I didn't use reversals either. What I began to do is really look into the energy inherent in the relationships with the multitude of cards, or the directions, or what shows up around it. I believe that will, excuse me, give us, or at least for me, it allows me to get more of an accurate picture of what I believe to be the true nature of the energy. And so I don't actually do a reversal. And for those of you guys that are wondering, let's say you're trying to use tarot, you're trying to understand tarot, a lot of readers we'll sort of pull a card and we'll get a reversed version of it. I actually don't do that. That's just my own personal thing. It's not because I don't think it's good. I think it's a completely legitimate practice. I just have a modality in which I'm reading more of the energy of the moment rather than the definitive data that shows up on the card. And when you look into the context of like the relationships of the cards, you begin to see this. It's almost like a literal timeline that goes a multitude of directions. So that may or may not answer your question. I believe that was Corian, but thank you. And so we are going to grab somebody else. Thank you for hanging out, y'all. I appreciate you showing up. Please do share this video. And so let's just go ahead and grab somebody else. And so I'm just kind of going through your comments, you guys. Thanks for hanging out. I feel like I skipped a lot of people, so I'm trying to rewind back. Thank you. Oh, there we are. And so I think we have all the way back there, and I don't even know if you're still here. Radiant Seed Pod, how's it going? I love a reading. Trying to get the deeper meaning of fear. I'm trying to cast out. So this is going to be just a little bit of an aside. For those of you guys that are here, we're going to do just a real quick card for Radiant Seed Pod. But when we are experiencing a disproportionate frequency of fear within the body, and right now, you guys, just by going to the store, just by looking at, social media or watching your TV, fear is being broadcasted at you as a frequency by the media, by literally everything in this world, whether it be, what we pick up from, our phones, or just what you're picking up from other people right now, just with the collective stuff that's going on, there is a heavy frequency of fear. But for those of you guys that are wondering, where does that go within the body? Just a moment. What structures or places within the energy body will we look at or work with to try to release whatever that frequency of fear is in the body? Number one, through my work, is usually within the urinary bladder meridian. And so what's a really easy way to kind of access or work with the energy of the urinary bladder meridian in the body? And so actually, first off, I'm going to say why the urinary bladder, because that's the holding place for a lot of urgency and fear. Within the framework or the circuitry of the fourth density energy body of the, us as humans, our urinary bladder meridian holds a tremendous amount of unresolved, or what we might even call crystallized or pressurized fear current in the body. For some people, it will be ancestral fear. It'll be something that we picked up empathically. For others, it'll just be trapped emotions in the body. But for a lot of us, we can begin to access the pressurization of fear within the physical body. And I'm going to pull my glasses down here, you guys, by working with this point right here. Right here next to your sinus in the left eye. You can begin to massage. For those of you guys that wonder, where are we working with? This is the urinary bladder meridian right up here. But more importantly than the non-physical urinary bladder meridian structure that I just mentioned that tends to hold a lot of fear, we also have an actual physical thing, the sphenoid bone, you guys. And so for those of us that are experiencing a pressurization of fear or anxiety in the body, you're feeling unshielded, you can literally take your fingers, press them right up here, right up into those sinuses, and it's almost like you're pushing your eye sockets back up into your head, and that's going to help you reset the sphenoid bone. It's going to help you lightly depressurize the urinary bladder meridian. That helps us let go of fear. That helps us let go of programming. And when we reset the sphenoid bone back into the head, that also helps us to create more of an impenetrable barrier against predatory or just other people's energy, anything negative, anything not of you. So Radiant Seed Pod, we're going to pull a card for you in a second. But yeah, resetting the sphenoid, working with that urinary bladder. And so for those of you assisting Radiant Seed Pod, we're just looking for what do they need to know about the currency of fear, just whatever the energetic atmosphere is for them. Thank you. What do they need to know? What's important? All right, for Radiant Seed Pod, what did we pull for you today? We got a thing called the Two of Swords. What is a Two of Swords, you guys? I know it's blurry. Next time we come on here, we're going to use a different camera. The Two of Swords, you guys, it's a woman, and she's swords like this. She's got her heart crossed. Her eyes are bound. She can't see anything. The Two of Swords, you guys, in the lens of multidimensional tarot, and this is also for Radiant Seed Pod, when we're asking about, where would an energy be located, or what do I need to know about a certain type of energy in the body, the Two of Swords tends to point us to a couple different places. Number one, in my opinion and experience, it is a throat chakra energy. There will be something that will need to be communicated, something that will need to be spoken, something that will need to just be allowed to transmit from the body, number one, with the Two of Swords. Secondly, it also deals with our discernment centers. And for some of you guys that hopefully this card will focus just enough so you can see the image, there it is. You notice her eyes are bound, okay? And so this is an upper chakra energy. For those of you guys that are learning about energetic anatomy in the body, it's funny that I took the card away as soon as it focused, you guys. I apologize. But the Two of Swords for Radiant Seed Pod points to the throat chakra energy. It points to the energy of the discernment centers. It's also a third eye energy. In my opinion, I think maybe there's something that might need to be communicated or released, something that we're holding on to. Also, here's an interesting aside, you guys. If you ask a yes or no question, let's say you're just doing simple yes or no questions, and you pull a Two of Swords, it's also a no. And so, not a negative thing, just for future reference. Those of you guys that are trying to understand tarot. And if you're interested, look at the links in the description down there. This video, you guys, you can go to my website. We're going to be doing a really cool tarot class. April 26th, we're going to be working with how to read your chakras, how to read meridians, how to look at the energy of your timeline in the moment through the lens of multidimensional tarot. So please do check that out if you're interested in that. Thank you, Radiant Seed Pod. We're going to scroll down. I'm going to grab somebody at random. Joanne Wood, thanks for being here. Joanne Wood, hopefully you're still on board. You might be gone, but we're going to pull a card for Joanne Wood. What's happening? Thanks for being here. And so once again, you guys, we just take it all with a grain of salt. Take it all with a grain of salt. Why do I say that so much? Why do I say that? One of the things I've been encountering just over the past, I guess, year or so is I'll find these clients that will find me through some strange series of circumstances, and they'll find my work and they'll book a session with me. And in many, many cases, they will have inevitably run into some healer or a psychic or some person that did some energy work with them along the way. And they disseminated or just gave them, a very, very interesting piece of information that they then internalized. They allowed it to become real for them. And what I've noticed is that some of us really, really internalize these messages and these energies. And so, I always say, take it with a grain of salt. If it feels relevant or resonates with you, hold on to it. If it doesn't, literally chuck it out the window, you guys. I've been running into people that are getting readings out there, and they're like, yeah, well, like this reader told me that I was a wizard from 18,000 years ago, and that's why my life was so hard. And, and it's as if they could do nothing about it now, but understand that, my life sucks because I was a wizard many lifetimes ago. And in my opinion, those pieces of information that get, internalized can be very damaging. So I will always, always say, take what we tell you with a grain of salt, especially me, because what we're doing, it's kind of like we're opening the door and we're just looking at, what's the biggest thing? What's the most important thing? What do we need to be made aware of right now? And so thank you for allowing that rant, Joanne Wood, because what do we have for you today? A very interesting thing. It is called the Seven of Wands. And this is why I kind of said, once again, take it with a grain of salt, because what's a Seven of Wands? It's kind of focusing right now, you guys. That is a cool thing. For Joanne Wood, the Seven of Wands depicts this guy, and he's on this hill, and he's got his wand, and he looks kind of, he's looking a little bit defensive. He's got a bunch of wands pointing at him. And so what does that mean, Joanne Wood? The Seven of Wands shows up at a time in your life in which you may have been feeling defensive. You may have had to defend yourself. You may have been in some form of a conflict, whether it's a huge one or it's just a little thing. You may have had to prove yourself. At certain times with the Seven of Wands, we'll feel as if other people have motives, or if they're sort of aiming something at us. We might feel at times, if we're in a workplace environment, that, certain people will be kind of like, I won't say out to get you, but they might be aiming a bit of a glance in your direction. And so the Seven of Wands, Joanne Wood, shows up at a stage in your life in which you might be experiencing something like that, or a situation, but it's more than that, because it tells you that you have an advantage. You're on higher ground on some level. If you felt that you've needed to somehow defend or prove who and what you are to anyone in your life or to a group of individuals, maybe it's been over the last few years, maybe it's just been, you know, at work or whatever it is that you do, the Seven of Wands tells you have an advantage. It will tell you to stand your ground on a certain level. And so in my opinion, that's a positive thing to have. We just have to be made aware at times that we have an advantage and that we need to stand firm in something. Seven of Wands does tend to stand firm in something in their world. So maybe just look into that. Maybe there's some relevance there. Yeah, thank you. Life-changing grace. That's another good one. Bashing your rep. That is a good aside. That is a very good detail of the Seven of Wands. And for those of you guys that are trying to understand tarot, let's just say you pull out some cards and you're like, well, what the hell does that mean? I don't know. We got this guy on a hill. He looks like he's going to get in a fight. Well, that's also a really good piece of, you know, symbolic information. And just for the record, for those of you guys that are here, that are still here with us, we are using the Robin Wood Tarot deck. Robin Wood Tarot. So please do check that out, especially if you're going to be taking the tarot class that we're starting on April 26th. But yeah, so thank you, Joanne Wood. Thank you for hanging out. Seven of Wands, stand your ground in something. Thank you very much. And so we are going to scroll up. I see your comments. Life-changing grace. Have had trouble. I feel you. Stop smoking. Definitely. I feel you. Thank you for your comments. Thanks for hanging out, y'all. Yes, Cordy, and I saw your question there. I don't know if you're still here, but yeah, thank you. That is the Robin Wood Tarot. So thank you so much. Angela 22 says, I pulled the Tower card once and then I had a breakdown. Since then, I've always been scared to read again. You know, I don't know if you're still here, Angela 22, but let me just say, I had an experience similar to that in 2013. Back when I was actually first starting to read tarot. And what happened for me, you guys, is I actually never even looked at a tarot card until check this out. This is crazy. Till December 22nd of 2012, when I was given a tarot deck by my now ex-wife's grandmother at the time. And we were just hanging out at their house on a family, kind of like a vacation in December of 2012. And this woman was like, hey, here's a tarot deck. And I'm like, oh, all right, cool. It was interesting. I looked at the images and I was like, whoa, this is spooky, you know. And I was actually raised in a very kind of like a religious, like fundamentalist family. And for those of you guys that have been involved in that realm, you know, we're kind of taught, for some of us as we grow up, that that's something evil, or, you know, that there'll just be a stigma. But for me, for some reason, I was fascinated with them. And I began to do readings by myself, you know, with myself, just looking at the cards all the time. And I really obsessed on them. And just like Angela 22, right around, for me, this was 2013. And I was just doing readings on myself and a few people at work at the time. And, you know, this series of events showed up in my readings and just personal choices I was making at the time. Now it's kind of irrelevant, but a series of events was forecast through the tarot work that I was doing at the time in my life that spelled an utter disaster. And it's funny that you mentioned the Tower, because I received the Tower card and a bunch of other really interesting kind of signposts during that period of time in my life that were like, no, don't do this thing, you know. And I chose to go against the advice that I received. And, you know, we will do that at a million stages in our life, but I went against that advice. And let me tell you what happened. Every negative thing that showed up actually took place. And so there's kind of a loaded bag with that, because, you know, we could say, did we manifest it? Was it spelled out? Was it meant to take place? All of those things. But really exactly what was said to happen, complete collapse. Many things fell apart. It was not a good period of my life. And kind of like you, it scared me. You know, it kind of like conditioned me. I was like, whoa, maybe I shouldn't mess with these. And that, for me, that lasted about like 2 months. But no, I feel you. I'm not scared because of religion. It scared me because of the truth. Exactly. Same here. It was literally true. What they said, what I learned in those early stage tarot readings literally took place in my life. And so, you know, for some of us that'll happen, for some of us it won't. But anyway, yeah, thank you for your comments, Cordy, and I appreciate your comments as well. Tarot is language. Root language is to be found. Absolutely. For me, it was something that just kind of activated. It just kind of clicked. I worked with a teacher for a little while, literally one person. You know, she taught me a few meanings of the cards, but what really happened is that she kind of put me in this sort of wavelength of frequency. She taught me how to tune in with what I believe, or what she called at the time, scrying the energy that showed up in the cards, rather than, you know, defining, you know, that sort of agreed upon meaning of what showed up in the tarot cards. It was like it gave me license to literally make up my own way. And I think for those of us that are here, maybe you're one of the few people that are still watching this broadcast, for those of us that are here on the path, or that chose a mission of, you know, doing that kind of work or that practice, whatever it is, I believe in order to truly internalize what it is that, you know, what it is that you're doing, whether you be a reader or a healer or just someone that's working with non-physical fourth density energy, is, I believe, one of the keys toward really breaking through is making it your own. And so for me, and this is just kind of, you know, like jumping on, you know, that comment of the root language, I believe it was Cordian. You know, I had to make it my own. I sort of had to create my own tarot language. And I don't think it's really that different from what everyone else is doing. I think we just look at things from a slightly different kind of like a perspective, we could say. So, yeah, that said, thank you for hanging it out. Thank you. We're going to go up for we're going to give somebody else a reading. Where are they? I'm just going to grab a random person. Thank you. Thank you. Myra Mejia, I don't even think you are still here, but I love your question. I love the specificity of it. Thank you for that. I have no idea if you're here, but we're going to go ahead and address your question. For those of you guys scroll up in the chat, Myra Mejia had a question. How did Raymond feel about me saying I love you to him? Okay, and so one of the things that I enjoy doing within the lens of multi-dimensional tarot is looking at the emotional motivations, or the energy, or what is ultimately just the emotional energy signature of an individual. What are they feeling? How are they doing? And so, you know, once again, we take it with a grain of salt. But for those of you assisting the mind-body-spirit complex known as Myra Mejia, Myra, we're just looking for information or understanding as to how did Raymond feel about her? What does she need to be made aware of regarding the energy and motivations, the feelings of Raymond? Raymond. What's important? Thank you. So, now, once again, take this with a grain of salt. Myra Mejia, when you said I love you to Raymond, number one, we receive a 2 of Wands. And so here's the thing. The 2 of Wands will show up at a time in your life when, honestly, it's not really about a yes or no moment. In fact, if you want to get technical, the 2 of Wands asks you to actually take control. It asks you to push harder. It asks you to make choices and to really, really drive the message forward. When you look at the symbolism, Myra Mejia, the 2 of Wands, you're literally holding the world in your hand. And so what you're going to need to do is actually press harder, investigate further, try harder. With the 2 of Wands, you're being given the license to not ask and start telling. And so that's an important piece of information for you. You know, whether you internalize that or not, whether it goes in one ear or the other, I think you're capable of attaining or experiencing or being involved with something on a greater level, because the 2 of Wands shows up at a time in your life, you guys, in which you're being asked to take direct control over whatever's going on. But let's go ahead and ask about Raymond, okay? Because when we ask about Raymond, we get a little bit of a different answer, okay? And we saw this card earlier, so I want to say, you know, once again, we have a 7 of Wands, and unfortunately, we're in blurry card zone today. But Myra Mejia, the 7 of Wands will be a bit defensive. If you look at the guy on the card, hopefully he focuses and you can see him. He has a bit of a barrier. There's going to be still a bit of a wall up. The 7 of Wands, it's not necessarily a negative thing. They may have extenuating circumstances in their life, or they may be in another situation. The walls aren't really down with the 7 of Wands. It doesn't tell you that there's something wrong. It doesn't even tell you, to be honest with you, Myra, exactly how he felt. Other than that, it might not have been completely received with a 7 of Wands. It may have also not necessarily have been the environment in which that person could, you know, receive it. And so I could be reading way outside of the bounds of any events that took place with Raymond. But in my opinion, when we see things like the 2 of Wands and the 7 of Wands, and a question in which, how did this person feel about me? Number one, We need to take control. Number two, I think, you know, try it again, investigate. I guess I just like repeated number 1 and 2 in a different form, but these are not cards of difficulty, but a wall may have still been up with Raymond. And so, you know, it's almost adding a bit more of a question mark than an answer to your question. So thank you for that. I hope that helps. I don't know if you're here. In my opinion, it almost adds a bit more of a question, like I just said. So thank you. Thank you. Linda Espinoza says, recently I got into tarot and finding it to be extremely accurate, feeling blessed. It's all in divine timing. I'm astounded at how accurate it is. And so, in my opinion, Linda Espinoza, when we have those type of experiences with something like tarot or even pendulum stuff or any form of divination, I believe it's because that's your body and your higher self and your guides signaling to you that you have done this before. There's an element of yourself that gets reactivated, that will start like remembering. And so for people that kind of fall into it and suddenly, you know, realize there's this incredible accuracy, there's a frequency, and there's something that I'm working with, in my opinion, that's a beautiful sign, Linda. Keep on working with it. Really allow yourself to make up meanings for the cards. And some people will find that to be crazy. But in my opinion, as a person who does this every day, this is literally my primary occupation, I think we really have to be willing to create our own way entirely. And so I have some strange associations with some of the cards, but thank you, thank you. So thank you. And I see you right there, Life-Changing Grace. How's it going? Yes, we will pull a card for you real quick, and then we're going to move on to some other people. But yeah, we'll pull a card for you. About your husband coming home from prison. I feel you on that. I hope he does too. Let's just ask about what's the energy for those of you assisting Life-Changing Grace. What does she need to be made aware of about the possibility of her husband getting out? What's important? Take this with a grain of salt, my dear. Thank you for hanging out. Oh, he comes home June 9th. Okay, thank you. That is good. I didn't want to misstate the energy of that. But for the pending a release, what does she need to know? What's important? Been praying and ready for a God-fearing man. Could it be that he has changed? Thank you, thank you. What do we need to know? All right, so I'm just going to say once again, what shows up? We ask about the pending release. Could somebody be a changed person? Take it with a grain of salt. But we actually receive a thing called the Nine of Cups, Life-Changing Grace. The Nine of Cups has a lot going on. If you can see this image, I'm trying to get him to focus. That's why I'm waving it around. It's a picture of a man, and he's got all these cups behind him, and there's all this stuff going on there. And here's the thing. Life-Changing Grace, just by looking at a one-card energy reading, we can't tell you exactly how this is going to go, but I can tell you what this card means. I can tell you the energy that it shows up with, and I apologize, it's so blurry. But the Nine of Cups has a tremendous amount going on, and it can also be within the emotional body. It can be within the physical realm, but they may need to seek clarity. They may need grounding. And so how does that, how does that like relate to how he will be, once he gets back? The Nine of Cups can be easily overwhelmed. They have a lot going on, and they're going to need help in a new way. They're going to have to address something because the Nine of Cups just shows up in a state of excess to begin with. And so how does that translate into a situation like yourself? Well, honestly, we would need more time and sort of like energy to look into it. But from a surface level, Nine of Cups will seek grounding. They need to be stable. They need to have acceptance. But there also needs to be understanding that there could be a lot of healing that will need to go on. There may be a large buildup of emotional energy in the body. And so that's one of those situations, I think, when we see something like a Nine of Cups, it's literally not a crisis, but we have to take something day by day, and we have to be really willing to dump out whatever we are carrying from the past. We got to get rid of a lot of past energy, because one of the way we could also describe Nine of Cups is like we're coming in with the closet totally full. Or you drive up to the house and you see someone get out of their car and you're like, whoa, every single thing they own is in the car. But it's not just like a bag, it's like a hoarder car, and everything is in there. That's a bit of a Nine of Cups type energy. There's a lot going on. So we're grounded, we're stable, and we have an allowance. Now, I can say on your side, Life-Changing Grace, and I'm just going to say this is for you. you might be in the stage of what we call the Ace of Swords. And I'm waving it around once again so it focuses. You guys know this by now, but what is the Ace of Swords? First off, it's this giant sword. It's like shining, you know, this gigantic sword. And so what does that mean? I'm going to be very specific with you, Life-Changing Grace. It's a timeline shift opportunity with respect to a long-running cycle in your life. On some level, even if you've never had a husband who's come back from prison before, it's irrelevant, because on some level, with the ace, any of the aces, Ace of Swords especially, you're repeating somewhat of a cycle, a period, a loop, an experiential process in your life. Exactly. And so I see your comments there. And so with the Ace of Swords, when that rolls in, you have an opportunity to completely shift your experience, but you have to communicate differently. And so why do we say that with something like the Ace of Swords? Because the swords are about how we speak, when we speak, what we say, how we receive other people's messages, their energy, you know, your ability to speak your truth and the energy that is contained therein. That's the realm of swords. So for Life-Changing Grace, I believe that, you know, even with your husband coming back and the understanding that he might be coming back, you know, with just some stuff and some changes and some energy and just, you know, a new version of him on a certain level, we are also repeating a cycle. And so the Ace of Swords says you have an incredible opportunity if you're willing to do something you've never done before, or to play the game completely differently. That's how you create the shift with the aces. We got to look back and go, okay, what did if I've been here before, even if it's in this very, very minor level, how so? And what did we not do last time? Or what, you know, how did this play out last time? This time we're going to do it completely differently. So it will be challenging for you. To be honest with you, and just looking at the totality of, you know, 2 cards on your husband getting out, Life-Changing Grace, this is not a crisis. It's an opportunity. But it's an opportunity that comes with a lot. And so it could be a lot of good. It could be a lot of weirdness, but take it with a grain of salt and really trust yourself. Trust your intuition. Thank you for hanging out. Thanks for hanging out. I hope it makes sense. I'm going to scroll up. We're going to do a couple more people. If you're still here in the chat, I think we got about 16 people left. If you're one of the 16 people left, please let me know that you're still here. If you asked for a reading previously, we're going to do a couple more of these, and then we're going to go ahead and bounce. Thank you guys for hanging out. It's been about a half an hour. You guys have amazing attention spans, because some of you guys have been hanging out the whole time. I love it. But that said, what are we doing? We're practicing multidimensional tarot. We're just looking at our energy, our timelines, looking at what's going on, where our energetic momentum is leading us. Once again, we're going to be doing a free group energy healing, improving the immune system in the body, working with our lymphatic system, improving our energetic and mental discernment. Just in this time of, you know, craziness and this, you know, this crazy pandemic. That's Saturday, April 4th. For those of you guys that would like to join us, I'm going to be doing it live on YouTube, and it is completely free. In addition to that, check our website and the links down there. We have some interesting courses and workshops coming up. Hello, hello. Sharon Gurr says, I'm here. How's it going, Sharon? We're going to pull a card for you. Sharon Gurr. What does Sharon Gurr need to know from Miss Sharon? What's important? Sharon Gurr, thank you for hanging out. You know, Sharon, I wonder how you've been feeling, and I'm going to show you this card, and I want you to, you know, once again, sometimes we see these images and we're like, oh man, what does that mean? So I will explain, Sharon Gurr. You've got the 9 of Swords. And so what's a 9 of Swords? Hopefully you can see this girl. She's up in bed at night, and, you know, she's got her head in her hands, and she's like, ugh. You see all these swords, you know, there's all these swords lining the wall. And so Sharon Gurr, 9 of Swords, or just 9s in general, show up at stages in which we can be experiencing a buildup. There can be a lot of stuff going on. We had an individual with the 9 of Cups a few minutes ago, and that's a lot of emotional body buildup, past experience. The 9 of Swords tends to be some tension, some buildup, sometimes feelings of overwhelm in our world, or just being weighed down by energy. Sometimes we have a hard time sleeping. Every now and then with a 9 of Swords, it will be indicative of gallbladder meridian blockage, in which we will be continually running a loop. And I see your comment down there. I feel stuck in place. Well, it's cool that I just mentioned the gallbladder meridian, because what happens with gallbladder meridian in cases of stuck energy in the body is that we will get stuck in a loop. a loop of thoughts, a loop of behaviors, a loop of processes. We continue to play this tape in our minds, and it'll be whatever you're thinking of, Sharon Gurr, when you're standing in the shower and you're playing this scene from probably a few years ago, when you're laying in bed at night and you can't go to sleep and you're just like, or if you feel like this, Sharon Gurr. Oh, look, it focused for a second. I love that. That was really cool. If you feel like that, sometimes that's a buildup of energy in the gallbladder meridian, which starts right here at the corner of your eye and does a crazy loop all around your head. You can check that out in actually, I believe, the last couple videos that we did on this channel. We talk about the gallbladder meridian as well as the vagus nerve in some of them. But very important for silencing the running loop and creating the forward moving momentum with respect to your thought processes. So Sharon Gurr, work with the gallbladder. You can also just start doing breath work. Meditation and breath work alone, the practice of, hyper oxygenating the bloodstream is also very helpful for like releasing bouts of cloudiness, uncertainty, or blockage in the upper chakras. It can also be, and I say this, very carefully, it can also be heavy metal buildup in the body and a need to detox from certain substances that can create emotional uncertainty or lack of clarity. So that's kind of a big mouthful. Sharon Gurr, it's not a crisis, but we may be built up. You could be a very empathic being that's dealing with a buildup of the last few years of energy in your body, or months, or whatever it is, if you've been through difficulty recently. So thank you for hanging out. I hope that makes sense. Artina Guyland, hello, I see you there. Thank you, Miss Artina, for coming over and hanging out with us. We're going to pull a quick card for you. Alina, I see you too. I saw your smiley face, and I didn't know if it was exactly you saying, yes, I want a reading or not, but yes, I see you as well. For the moment, Miss Artina Guyland, here we go. What does she need today? What's going on, Artina? You got the Knight of Wands. I think this is a cool thing. Hopefully he'll focus for us. Artina, I have a feeling you've heard of the Knight of Wands before. You might even have received this guy. Sorry he's so blurry, everybody. When I hold him next to my face, he shows up. But you guys, the Knight of Wands, he's rearing up on this horse. He's got this wand, and he's like aiming it out in the world, and he's very fiery. He's flaming. What does it mean for you, though, Artina? What does it actually mean? Boldly move forward on your desires, an element of your mission. He gives you license to begin testing and pushing forward and rushing in there and go, I want to be this, I want to do that, I want to try this. The Knight of Wands is at a stage of his life in which he's on a mission. He's going to be investigating. You really need to dive into your passions, and just understand that you're going to be changing your mind a lot with a Knight of Wands. Because the wands in general, they can be hot and cold, they can be wishy-washy, but I think as a stage, Artina, just as kind of like an overall indicator of energy in the moment, the Knight of Wands really boldly pushes forward and goes directly toward, if he wants something, and this is maybe you in your life in certain areas, you're literally being given license to go, there it is, I'm going over there, I'm getting it. If I have money, I'm buying it. If it's there, I'm, like whatever it is, you're going to go for it with the Knight of Wands. Because the cool thing is with a Knight of Wands is you can just turn around usually and just bounce, which is also a bad thing about Knight of Wands, because he'll just change his mind and be like, nope, I don't want to do it anymore. And he'll just roll out and you'll be like, what? So anyway, I'm just rambling on the Knight of Wands for you, Artina. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you. General Tyrant, how's it going? What's happening? All right, who else do we have? Okay, we're going to do Alina and then Shio73, because I feel kind of bad, Alina. I kind of skipped you. So Miss Alina, thanks for hanging out. Shio73, thanks for hanging out as well. You're going to be next after Alina. We're just pulling a few cards here, you guys. We're looking at just multidimensional energy. Thanks, Artina. It's good to have you. Thanks for coming over from Facebook. I appreciate it. For those of you guys that are here and you're like, who's this strange man? We do this on Facebook a lot more. This is the first time we have been here on YouTube. And so I appreciate you guys hanging out. It really means a lot to me that people showed up on this strange live stream. Once again, check the link. If you want to learn the meanings of these cards and how we connect and do this weird process here, join us in this class, April 26th. But in the meantime, for Miss Alina, thanks for hanging out. What's going on? What does she need to know? Wow, you got some interesting energy today, Alina. you've received our first appearance of justice. A very interesting thing to get. Here's the thing, Alina. Justice, in my opinion, for a lot of us, it's kind of more of a question than an answer. And I'll just kind of define justice first off from the lens of multidimensional tarot. Justice is a decision. It's a finality. It's something being made right, or what's done is done. A decision has been made. You know, the gavel has been dropped. Something in your life, a course of action, sometimes will be wrapping up. Sometimes it will be beginning. Sometimes we will receive a payback on a certain area. Sometimes with justice, we will even have a great victory. We could also be on the receiving end of justice, in which justice is dealt to us. And for some people, that can be a very difficult thing, because the thing about justice, you guys, it's also a situation in which we will kind of get what we deserve, okay? Not always. I would say judgment is more of an indicator of you will get exactly what you deserve. But with justice, it's also a situation in which we will be receiving our just desserts. And so that could be very positive for some of us. It could be very negative. But for Alina, if you're questioning current decisions, if you're questioning the validity of paths or directions or things that you're doing in your world at this stage, justice tells you what's done is done. And in my opinion, in the moment here today, it's saying look forward, look ahead, move on with a certain thing. Because in my opinion, it's a positive thing, but it always depends more on what's going on. And so you can also ask yourself about, you know, what does justice mean for you right now? It's definitely a powerful thing to have. In the context of an individual reading, we would need to look way deeper into that. So thank you. She073. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for waiting. We're going to pull a card for She073. I think we also see Larkspur. How's it going? I see you there. Absolutely. So She073, thanks for hanging out. And Alina as well. I hope that makes sense. Like I said before, take it with a grain of salt. One card readings. It could, you know, it's like we're opening the door into your energy field. And like you guys can imagine, it's like you're opening, you know, the door into like somebody's closet. And you're like, okay, I see that, I see that, boom, and then the door closes. Because you're just using one card, you're just connecting over social media, so it's a very momentary exchange. And so for some of us, people that do readings, we'll just look at a few things in that room and we'll just describe what we see. For other people, you know, they'll see something else. And so if it makes sense, hold on to it. But for She073, what does she need to know? What's important? Thank you for hanging out. She073, you actually have a pretty cool thing. You have the first appearance of the 9 of Wands, I believe, today. And so what is a 9 of Wands, you guys? 9 of Wands is, number one, it's a 9. So it's almost done with a certain thing, a certain process. It's almost that completion in a certain thing that it's doing. And it's within the realm of Wands. So this, once again, this could be a number of areas of your life. She073, it could be a number of areas, but the 9 of Wands is approaching completion in something. And if you look at this guy, maybe he's been training. I know it's so blurry. If I hold it back, he shows up a little bit better. But he's been training. We've been working on something. We've got 9 of these things. We're approaching completion in a certain stage of our life. Here's the thing, though. It's usually the last step before something occurs or we wrap up a process. But it can also be a stage of your life, or a kind of a chapter that people get stuck in, She073, because you will, and I know you will have known people that are like this, okay? Because they will be like, next week, I swear to God, you guys, I'm going to start, you know, blank, or, you know, I swear to God, now I'm going to blank, or here we go, next week we're going to, you know, whatever it is. It's the type of situation in which we're always about to. I swear to God, we're finally going to, you know, whatever it is. And so I'm not saying that's where you are, She073, at all. I'm describing the possibilities of the myriad of energies that show up with, you know, the 9 of Wands. And so if that's a stage in your life, you guys, the 9 of Wands asks you to pull the trigger. It says you got to jump, you got to go for it, you got to create, initiate a process. And why do I say initiate a process? That's the theme, or one of the themes of the Wands in tarot. She073. If you're wondering how to better assign this card to some sort of situation in your life, the 9 of Wands is at the stage where they are ready to make the decision to do a certain thing. And you'll know oftentimes it's an actual physical thing that you will physically do in your life. It's not going to be like, oh, I think I'm just going to, it's not a minor, I'm going to choose to drink this thing. That's not a 9 of Wands energy. It's something that we've been working at and getting ready for and going, almost. 9 of Wands says it's time to jump. And so oddly enough, she's 073. We're going to make it a little bit weird. I don't know if this has anything to do with you, but every now and then I'll pull a second card. This one means something different to everyone. She's 073. Your second card was actually the 2 of Cups. Okay? And if you look at it, you'll notice it's 2 individuals. They're holding a cup. It's a scene of union, of harmony in between 2 beings. Very interesting piece of symbolism. She's 073. You get to decide what the 2 of Cups means for you today, because it's a little bit different for everyone, but it often involves us and another person. And so, just food for thought. Take it with a grain of salt. I appreciate hanging out. I realize I just rambled at you for a while, but yeah, thank you. I hope it makes sense. Larkspur, how's it going? We're going to do a reading for you. We're just going to pull a card. Thank you for the specificity of your question. And I know it sounds very overarching in general. As a seeker for years now, I'm feeling blocked. What do I need to do? I actually really respect that question and love that, because I love the clients that show up with that sort of attitude of like, I'm ready to do, whatever it is. What do I need to know? How do I move forward? And while that's a very general question, oftentimes when we approach that, as I guess we could say, a seeker in the real authenticity of the moment, oftentimes we can be given at least, a little piece of assistance or something relevant on your journey. So I guess what I'm saying is I honor the authenticity of your question. Thank you. The mind-body-spirit complex known as Larkspur. Oh, interesting. What a loaded answer. My goodness, Larkspur. Okay, so we pull a card for you. We're just wondering about being blocked, being stuck in the, here it is, being stuck on our path, transformation, awakening. Hopefully she focuses. Who is she, Larkspur? It's the Page of Cups. A very beautiful being. Here's the story with the Page of Cups. In multidimensional tarot, the Page of Cups is a legitimate path. It is a legitimate undertaking. If it's a version of ourselves, or if it's dealing with our identity in the energy of the moment, the version of us that you carry within you. This is the realm of cups, Larkspur. So it's all about the existential version of us, who we are, what we're doing, our purpose, the emotional body, our relationships, our intimacy, how we connect with other people, how we define ourselves. That's the realm of cups. And so when the Page of Cups rolls in, you're in a legitimate new beginning. You're in a legitimate new path. Even if you're 60 years old and you're like, man, I've been on this awakening journey since, 1977, that's okay. What we're talking about with the Page of Cups is a new stage that we are in. And so the Page of Cups shows up at a time in your life in which we're experiencing developments, activations, changes within the fabric of the emotional body template, that being the realm of cups. And so how do you work with that? How do you move forward when you feel blocked in a stage that could be, described as within, the Page of Cups? Well, we deal with whatever the blockage and emotion is. Also, we look at early childhood, any of the wounding or the programming we picked up as children. Why do we do that with the Page of Cups, you guys? Because pages are also the youngest members of that quote-unquote royal court in tarot. They're going to be inherently less experienced. They're going to be working with a younger aspect. And so it will also be dealing with, if you're wondering, where am I stuck at this time? One of the possible places would be within the inner child and some of the healing that you might still need to work on, or maybe just gaining awareness of certain things. And take it with a grain of salt. But I pulled a second card for you, Larkspur, and that's the 9 of Cups. It has returned. Somebody else got a 9 of Cups earlier. And so the 9 of Cups, hopefully it's not too blurry. You can see this guy here, and you know, here's the thing. He doesn't look like he's in trouble. I know it's blurry, but he kind of looks a little drunken in a weird way. It's this big guy, and he's like, and he's got all these cups, you know, behind him. And so what does that mean, Larkspur? We may be holding a tremendous, or just a lot. I shouldn't say tremendous. Let's be more accurate with the Nine of Cups. You might just have a lot of something still behind you, still inside there, inside that energetic closet, within the experiential realm, or that internal, you know, fabric of our emotional body. You know, I'm kind of rambling, Larkspur, but it usually signals some emotional buildup within the body. Here's what's interesting about the cups as well as Nine of Cups when we're looking at energetic anatomy, Larkspur. If you're wondering, what's the area of my body that I could start working with to generate additional clarity, or to let go of the buildup of stuff that you might be carrying with the Nine of Cups? Because this guy's got 9 cups full of stuff back here. In classical tarot, Larkspur, the Nine of Cups will be a situation in which we want something so bad that we may block ourselves from obtaining it. It could also be a situation in which we've received so much of a certain thing, you don't get any more until you work with what they already give you. And so for some people, that'll be a beautiful thing, because for some people with a Nine of Cups, it's like a wish, kind of like fulfillment. All of these things that they wanted start coming in the door. But for some people, it can also be too much of something. And so, you know, from certain perspectives, it's an emotional buildup in the body. For some people, it's too much of a good thing. For some people, we just want it so bad that we don't get it. And so where does that ask you to work with? In the body, Larkspur. That's, in my opinion and experience, that's your lymphatic system, and the need to create true clarity by further removing and dealing with whatever that exogenous waste is that we're carrying from the past inside our body, the physical elements of the body. Because for some of us along this journey, we just get stuck, and all of our old tricks and all of our old, you know, practices stop working. And sometimes that's because we're still carrying a physical stagnation of old emotion in the body. So Larkspur, I kind of rambled at you for a while, but you're working with possibly lymphatic stagnancy, and also a need to really work with the inner child, and to just work on, you know, just emotional buildup. And that can be done a number of ways. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. But we do have some energy clearings in the videos here on this channel. I believe there is a couple energy clearing meditations that you can do and take part in totally for free, in which we can work on opening up areas of the body. And so please do check that out if you're interested in. Thank you, Larkspur, for hanging out. I appreciate you. Star Travels, how's it going? I see you. What's happening? Totally. We're gonna pull a card for you. Thank you, Star Travels, for hanging out, and everybody else that's here. Star Travels, good to see you. All right. For the mind body spirit complex known as Star Travels, what does this person need to know? Thank you for hanging out, Star Travels. Maybe you just rolled in the door. Maybe you just rolled in the door, excuse me, as a stutter, and you got lucky. But anyway, for you today, we have a thing known as a Three of Cups. And just so you know, I'm holding it weird like this so my camera will focus. I'm using a different camera today. But a Three of Cups is actually, you guys, one of the universally positive indicators in tarot, especially when it comes to yourself and other people, a community atmosphere. If it asks you to do anything, Star Travels, it asks us to connect with other people in a celebratory or just a lighthearted, emotional kind of way in which we just connect with other people. And we look at the simple symbolism of a Three of Cups, okay, you guys? Even if you knew nothing about tarot, literally nothing, and you pulled this card, you'd be really hard-pressed to say this looks like a disaster, right? In fact, it looks like everybody's partying and they're all dancing around. It's a universal time of good feelings, I would say. It can be short-lived. It can be a short chapter that might be, you know, its only inherent flaw is that it can be very short. But you know, it will ask you to connect with other people. And so along with that, we're just going to do one more for Star Travels, because, you know, why does she have the Three of Cups? Maybe you've been feeling isolated, not a part of, not involved in a certain area of your life, or maybe you've been kind of just feeling by yourself in the world. I don't know if you have or if you haven't. I can tell you that just from a generalistic perspective, when we see something like this, the Eight of Cups, and this was the second card that I pulled for you, Star Travels. Thank you for hanging out. But for some people, they'll see an 8 of Cups and they'll be like, oh, that might not be good, or what's going on here? And I know it's blurry, but star travels, you know, we have this person looking out in the night with the 8 of Cups, and they, you know, they're looking out into the dark, and, you know, they're on this cliff, and, you know, like behind them, hopefully it's visible, they're just missing one thing. They've got all these cups, but only one is missing. And so what does that mean? How does that translate into your world? At times, it can be a stage in which we may have been placing too much focus on stuff that was lost or broken, something that happened in the past that we can no longer change. In certain cases, it could even be an individual, or, you know, just certain experiences that our focus will unknowingly go back to. And so while you start out with an incredibly positive piece of energy, you may be leaving behind a period of, I guess we could say, mourning. But likewise, star travels, and this all depends on what's going on in your world. And that's why I say take it with a grain of salt. But, you know, we could also be experiencing that right now. And so just in case you were, let's say you're experiencing, you know, like grief or depression or loss, even though, let's just say maybe on the flip side, and for those of you guys that are watching, there would be times in which in classical tarot, the card gets, you know, like reversed. You know, you may be asked to like connect with people more on an intimate level, just, you know, really, I mean, emotionally intimate, and letting them know what's going on with you, or conversely, seeking other people that you could be of assistance to. And so I don't know if that makes sense to you, star travels. I think those are really good things to have, especially if you're in a process of healing, because that will tell you oftentimes that we can move on with something, that it's in the past and we can't do anything about it. So, you know, hopefully that didn't take in a weird random direction, but really lean into the connections and the alliances and the positive celebratory energy that you have around you. In my opinion, it's a beautiful thing. So anyway, thank you. Wow, I just turned 65 yesterday. Whoa, then good. I hope you're going to have a party. I love that. Thank you for that comment. I hope you're going to have a party. Thank you. This is the party, Star Travels, that Larkspur was going to have. But Star Travels, you should also have a party. So thank you for hanging out. Larkspur, happy birthday as well. Thank you for being here. We are going to do one more. Hello, Starshine Star. Okay, cool. Yes, I will pull a card for you, and you and Sam, and I want you to take it with a grain of salt, Starshine Star. We're just going to ask for whatever Starshine Star needs to be made aware of about the relationship with Sam. What's the energy? What's important? What does Starshine Star need to be made aware of? Where is this going? What's happening? Thanks for hanging out. Interesting. Starshine Star. We got a mixed bag. I'm going to tell you, a mixed bag. And, you know, maybe this is Sam's side, because I pulled 2 cards, Starshine Star. And I'm going to decide, or we're going to discern this is Sam in the energy of the moment. We have a King of Cups. And I say that because it's a King of Cups, and the kings tend to be male energies, not always. When we're looking at a context or answering a question like this, the King of Cups may be a little bit emotionally removed from something. At times, they may feel a bit distant. They may have issues accurately expressing the emotional influences or what they're actually feeling. So when we ask that question about an individual and we're like, are we going to have a relationship? The King of Cups, as an individual, he may want a certain thing, but he might not be equipped to completely go through with it. Meaning that at this stage, and so why do we say that about a King of Cups? Just so you know. Just want to let you know, Starshine. Why do we say that? It's not a bad thing, but King of Cups, they will be a bit removed. He's all alone on a little rock in the middle of the ocean. And so we have to make an extra effort to connect with a person that's in a King of Cups. And so I'm going to tell you, it doesn't spell negativity or difficulty in your relationship, but what it could spell, being more specific, is difficulty for the male piece or the male aspect of that to connect or be really open about their emotions. So you may continue to question it. However, I don't think you should question your feelings. If you feel very strongly about Sam, it's not telling you guys are going to have a relationship, but what it is telling you is that you are aligning yourself with a stage of your life in which this becomes greater possibility for you than ever before. And why do I say that? It might not even be so much about Sam and the energy of the moment, Starshine Star, possibly because you have this thing right here. This is the Ace of Cups, just so you know, Starshine, in case you want to Google it and look up all the meanings of the Ace of Cups. because that's a good thing to do. There's a million interpretations. But in multidimensional tarot, Starshine Star, this is an opportunistic point in your personal timeline with respect to your intimacy, how you connect with others, with respect to what you're manifesting with people like Sam. It doesn't tell you that you and Sam are necessarily going to be in a relationship, but what it tells you is that you're in a stage of your life in which you need to make very bold, determined changes, or excuse me, not changes, decisions about how you connect, about how you seek that partnership or that, whoever that is, whether it be a twin flame or a soulmate or a boyfriend or a husband or whatever it is that you're looking for. With the Ace of Cups, you might have been here with other people at other stages. There might have been someone else in your life that was a little bit like Sam, maybe, and maybe you kind of had a little bit of a similar experience. If that is the case, you're being asked to go about this differently. And so I'm going to answer your question by saying there's a great positivity and an incredible opportunity for an intimate connection and a new chapter with energy of the Ace of Cups, okay? However, you have to play the game differently. If you've done it before, you have to go about connecting with Sam differently. And also keep in mind that on his side, they could be a little bit removed. They might not express emotions exactly. They might be reserved. They might not tell you, exactly what's going on. It's not for a negative reason with the King of Cups, Starshine. It's because they might not be as emotionally equipped as you to do certain things. And so these aren't bad omens for your relationship, but I think really at this stage, and this is a very bold statement, Starshine Star, it's way more about you, what you can have, what you can do, what you can, like create and manifest than it is Sam. And so I encourage you to keep pushing forward, man, and just know it's time to play the game differently. So thanks. I appreciate you hanging out. That's awesome. Thanks for hanging out. And oh, wow, that said, we are at 2 hours. I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up in a minute here. For those of you guys that are still here, please do check the links in the description. We have a number of really cool workshops and courses coming up for the School of Multidimensional Intuition in the coming months. March 21st and 22nd. Interesting equinox workshop. Please check that out at rememberyourmission.com. In addition to that, we have a couple other things. We have an astrology course that's being taught by my wife. That's in May. And the big one, the Art of Multidimensional Tarot, coming on April 26th. So please check that out. I really appreciate you guys that came and hung out here today. I don't know if we made it onto Facebook as well, but thank you for those of you guys that are hanging out. I appreciate the support. And yeah, have a good one, everybody. We'll probably return in the coming weeks. In the meantime, honor your intuition, trust your gut instinct, begin to work with and really, really monitor the signals and the energy that you get from other people. As a collective, we are becoming more powerful, more intuitive, more tuned in, but it's a personal choice. And so for those of you guys that are here today, thank you for supporting the work that I do. Thank you for watching the videos that I put out. And thank you for going through this strange process of fourth density and just learning who we are and what we're doing here in this realm. And so thanks for hanging out, you guys. My name is Matthew, and we will be back in the future with the School of Multidimensional Intuition. Thanks, everybody. Take care.